Welcome to the AmeLiaRun channel. My name's AmeLia. Today I'll be reviewing the ASICS Trabuco Max 2. This is a max cushion trainer. It is also, folks, my very first trail shoe review. I've had this one on the shelf for a while. I just never really got around to running in it. But as I had mentioned in one of my vlogs, I'm sure you saw, if you haven't, no big deal. It's right there on my channel. Trying to get some lighter trails, gravel, light terrains, maybe up through about moderate terrains, nothing too technical. Been trying to get that into my workout routines just to try to mix things up a bit. But I digress. This is going to be structured just like all my other running shoe reviews. We'll be discussing the nerdy details, the fit, projecting the durability, as well as discussing the ride, versatility, and value of the shoe. As this is a much older shoe, I'm not going to put any consideration towards like, oh, is this worth an order or what. I just think this would just be fun to kind of go through. Maybe a little bit of an older shoe, but also just kind of welcome in my journey into trail running for sure. All my reviews are timestamped for easier reference regardless of where and when buyers are shopping. Again, I'm hoping to help aid runners of all experience levels with my videos. Getting into the nerdy details for the ASICS Trabuco Max 2. This was released approximately February of 2023. It is a 10.8 ounce shoe. It has a 43 millimeter heel stack, 38 millimeter forefoot stack for a 5 millimeter drop. It features the Flight Foam Blast Plus. You can see it right there. A lot of people just know it short as FF. This is the foam that was in, if I'm remembering correctly, goodness gracious, different variations of it. I want to say, was it the Nova Blast 3? I think had this. But it also has the ASICS grip outsole rubber. In the later shoes, both road and trail, you're probably used to seeing that. I know they recently started adding it to some more of the daily trainers for ASICS last year or two here. Has a mesh upper, and it was marketed for $150. You know, thinking about fit for this shoe, it fits pretty much like a road shoe. I know some people like more snug shoes when it comes to trail running, but I liked it. As far as like how it fit as like a road shoe, it definitely feels like a road shoe from, you know, the foam up. Of course, you know, lugs and all that are a little bit different of a discussion. But as far as fit, I know for some people they might not like the concept of more of a road shoe feel for when they're running on trails. I don't do highly technical trails. I'll put my hand up for all my trail running shoe reviews and to mention that. But I do think that if you do have some lacing tricks, that might be worth using for as far as getting a good lockdown for this shoe. I'll also say, as far as projecting durability, taking a look here, I've ran 3 times in this, probably about 10, 11 miles. Admittedly, you know, I could probably do more, but I got a couple other shoes I want to be reviewing. This is a little bit older, so I just figured let's just go ahead and get a quick review out of the way with this. The lugs definitely are holding up well. I am always curious where like thicker lugs or like thicker rubber outsoles, you know, do those last longer than like the road shoe rubber? I'd assume yes, but you know, I have never really gotten a chance to talk to a trail runner to see how many miles their shoes typically last. Does the foam blow out before then? You know what I mean? Does the upper tear out? Probably the upper if I have to guess, but it'd be interesting to hear, you know, if any of you in the audience who have experience with trail running, you know, if you say, hey, you know, usually my shoes last 200, 300 miles, just let me know. I'm really curious to learn. I really want that education as well. I will think here out loud, I'm probably going to end up using these as a hiking shoe. I really will enjoy these. So probably whenever we're doing trails, as far as like hiking or just out on nice walks in the wilderness with my with my family, that'll probably be what I'll gravitate towards. Discussing the ride versatility and value for this ASICS. The ride is interesting. I think the more uneven the terrain was, the better I felt in the shoe, the more I appreciated it. I'm talking everything from like fresh gravel to pretty upwards towards moderate, I'd say, path kind of terrain, a little bit all over the place. Nothing anything like too technical, but like definitely noteworthy in the sense that like, it wasn't as smooth sailing, but throughout the whole thing, I just felt like I was just like a straight arrow right through it all. Better and worse, that shoe's gonna crush rocks, it's gonna crush potholes, it's gonna go through everything. And is it always the most comfortable? Maybe not compared to like what you think of when you think of like max cushion road shoes, but it definitely was pretty comfortable for a trail shoe from my experience with trying them on. And I've worn trail shoes in the past for like work. I always felt like they made good work shoes. The 5mm drop's interesting because you want to be able to have, I think in this kind of shoe, you want to be able to have more ground feel, but it's also a max cushion shoe that has more of like the stack you expect from like a road shoe. So it's kind of a weird dilemma you have between that, right? Because you're like, well, can you feel it or can you not? For me, I'm not particularly picky because I'm just running in a straight line through, some various conditions through a very long trail system, which I appreciate having. But it does give the kind of pause that you're thinking like, would this work for somebody who wants something where they have more ground feel? Like those are the kind of questions I bring up to myself where it's like, well, how's my experience? Yes, but thinking of as I'm doing a review, how is this going to make or break a shoe for somebody watching, somebody who's interested in purchasing a specific shoe, right? So it's an interesting discussion there as far as the ride of the shoe. It definitely feels like, something akin to like the, which one was it I was thinking of? I was thinking of the Gel Nimbus, really, like the ASICS Gel Nimbus. Like it felt like a Gel Nimbus with a nice like lug system on the bottom. There were times I felt like I was like the Grave Digger, if you remember that from like back in the old monster truck era, like it kind of just crushing over rocks, or I was worried I'd roll an ankle. I didn't really have to worry about that. But I remember I bought this shoe, and full credit to them. When I first read this on Believe in the Run's website back in 2023, they mentioned that it's like having monster truck tires, and that is the perfect way to put it. So I made the Gravedigger reference, right? It's such a good shoe in that regard. It is a very attractive looking shoe too. I know that doesn't really go into ride, but it's definitely a nice looking shoe. I love that colorway with that black to yellow gradient with a little bit of brown in between. Very earthy in that regard. Thinking about versatility, I think this would be a pretty versatile shoe. I'd like to try one of the newer ones maybe when I get a little bit more into trail running. I think it's, for me, where I'm running mostly light to moderate trails, I'm not doing a whole lot of road to trail running. I don't know if I'm getting the most out of this kind of shoe, but it's definitely there as like a good hybrid versatile shoe, which is something that's always been really well thought out for ASICS with their shoes. Like, you think of like the Super Blast. I'm reviewing the Super Blast 3 right now at the time of recording this. That can handle every pace. That can handle every type of run. I imagine short of like highly technical terrains, I imagine this shoe would fit a lot of people's boxes they have for different kinds of trail systems they might be running in. So it's definitely noteworthy in that regard. And then, think about value. We just mentioned how versatile the shoe is on paper. I do think that it's a good value for $150. Is that the price that the new ones are? I don't know, because how much are trail shoes typically? And I'm embarrassed that I'm looking this up this way, but I'm curious. And I'm not going to edit this out, just more fun for like this. Looks like I'm seeing $170. So, we've talked on the channel about inflation as far as like tariffs also as far as the price of shoes. Yeah, that was only 3 years ago, which is kind of nuts to say, but you know, $20 sounds, $20-30 sounds about right. This would be $30 in this case. You know, that's a different discussion if you feel like a shoe's worth 180 versus 150, but for $150, this definitely was worth it at the time. It's kind of an awkward part of these reviews when I have older ones, right? Because it's like, well, you can't really get this anywhere. Maybe you get it on StockX or something. But let's get into the final thoughts. Final thoughts for the ASICS Trabuco Max 2. Aside from the fact that I always get the name wrong, I like this shoe quite a bit. It seems like it's a very versatile shoe. As I'm getting into trail running, it might be a little too versatile for me just because I'm trying to get used to what trail running is going to be like, but I can see a lot of folks who might have a preference for more road shoes, perhaps wanting something like this where it can handle everything from road to trail up through like moderate kind of conditions as far as your trailheads. Again, very attractive shoe. I think that it's not going to have any issues with durability, but I'll get a feel for durability with the trail shoes as I go. I'm sure I'm going to get a trail shoe somewhere along the way where it's got like a lug that completely blows out like 20 miles in. They'll be like, hey folks, maybe don't be on technical terrain with this, right? But I digress. We'll get there. We'll get there in time. Yeah, kind of a shorter review here today, but wanted to kind of celebrate getting into trail running. I'm always open for learning new things, so you know, if you have any feedback as far as different trail shoe reviews or like any kinds of trail shoe kind of like tips, just let me know. I'm always open to reading comments. I really enjoy the conversations. So with that said, I hope you're all staying healthy and safe, and I will see you all in the next review.